After graduation from the Naval Academy in 1962, I joined Attack Squadron 146, flying A4C Skyhawks in the Vietnam War. Our mission is to join with the Air Force pilots flying out of Thailand to stop, interdict the lines of supply and communication, the goods coming from Hanoi down to the troops in South Vietnam. So our job was to interdict those missions. I was shot down flying my A4 on my 179th mission. My roommate was killed on his 200th mission, and my third roommate ended up with 450 missions. So it was a long war for us pilots, both Air Force and Navy. And in my case, I ended up at 5 years and 8 months as a prisoner of war. On June 30th, 1967, I was shot down while attacking a bridge just south of Hanoi. My hydraulic package was destroyed, my airplane went uncontrollable, and I had to eject going approximately 500 miles an hour. During the ejection, I was pretty seriously injured and hurt. My arm was broken, my shoulder was dislocated, my knee was dislocated, and my back was broken. So I was in no condition to evade. I was jumped on immediately by the North Vietnamese and taken into the infamous Hanoi Hilton. This is our humor. It was actually Wallow Prison, which had been used by the French since the late 1800s. So we named it the Hanoi Hilton. Immediately I was put into torture. They tortured me for 15 days to break me past name, rank, serial number, to extract whatever they could. You know, my 5 years, 8 months was about the average time of the pilots that shot down in North Vietnam, and my treatment was the same as the other pilots. We were also subjected to torture in violation of the Geneva Convention. As soon as they broke you and got you to tell whatever false stories you could, they basically left you alone. In my case, after 15 days, I broke. I was near death. I was flat on my back. I couldn't raise my head. I couldn't move. And I started giving them information. The way they got information was what we called the Hanoi rope trick. And that is they would tie the arms behind the back and then rotate your hands over your head and dislocate your shoulders. It's brutal, and the pain is indescribable, and you will break. Every POW that was in North Vietnam, aircrew, 478 of us pilots shot down, every one of us was broken past name, rank, serial number. It's impossible to stick to the code of conduct. You have to break and give them something, or you die. 28 of our pilots died going through this torture in North Vietnam. Luckily, I broke. I gave the false information, and then I settled down for months in solitary, no medical treatment. I never saw a book, a paper, a pencil, a Bible, a letter from home, no pair of socks or a bed. I lived as a POW on a cement floor. I never sat in a chair for 6 years. I never sat at a table. So that was the typical treatment. And what we did to keep our morale up and to keep our sanity is tap on a wall. You tap code. And we all learned the tap code from the prisoners that were in Germany in World War II. And so you're tapping on the wall, and you tap to, like TD is today, TM is tomorrow, YD is yesterday, TT is that, the letter T is the, and pretty soon you're tapping, and today they'd call it texting. I think we invented texting, but they won't give us credit for that. Communications was our lifeblood. We organized, we had chain of command all the way to our senior ranking officers, Robbie Reisner, Gag Stockdale, Colonel Flynn, and with tapping through the wall, your friend Roger on the other side of the wall and on this side of the wall, I learned 350 names of all the POWs. There's Alvarez, Atterbury, Austin, Bailey, Bargy. I could run off 350 names. And then tapping through the wall, I learned German. I got passable German, and later, in later years, I learned Spanish and became fluent in Spanish, all without books, paper, or pencil. In other words, we were all learning. We had to keep our minds active and going, because you know, you've got to keep this mind going to keep your health. We exercise to keep our bodies going. We had a lot of rice and a lot of cabbage soup, and we all lost about 50 pounds. So we got skinny, and we learned a lot. We called that Hanoi University. Well, this went on for 5 years, and passed around. Never saw a book or a paper or pencil, but we just did the best we could with supporting each other. The end of the war came in 1972, the Christmas bombings of 1972, when President Nixon got serious and sent the B-52s over Hanoi for a 10-day period. At the end of the 10-day period, the Vietnamese signed the agreements, and the war was over. I was in a dungeon up by China at the time, called Dog Patch. We didn't hear the B-52s because we were so far away, but one day the Vietnamese opened the doors to let us out. They smiled, said the war is over, took us down to Hanoi, and about a month later, here came the C-141s, US C-141s, and a whole series of them. Loaded up about 40 to 50 POWs per airplane, and took us all out of Hanoi, flew us to Clark, where we did some debriefings, 3 days of medical care, then back to our families.
Today, the largest contingents of repatriated prisoners so far, 60 men, were flown from Clark to Travis Air Force Base, California.
It's a short version of a long war. Some people were up there, you know, over 8 years as a POW, and we never lost faith with our country. Most of us, 90% of us, stayed in the military for at least 20 years or more, and we were always proud of our country. Now, after we got back, guess what? We ran into this wonderful organization called the VA, because a lot of us went to the VA for benefits, and we're still thankful to the VA for the care and treatment that we get now, 49 and a half years after our release from Hanoi, February, March 1973. And that's kind of an encapsulation of 6 years of my experience in the Vietnam War.